Sometimes people are a little frustrated just that, they still have some pain. It's taking a while. That's not an uncommon thing
Yeah.
post-surgically. What I try to tell people is, you're going to get there. This is a very normal process. Sometimes it's their expectations. They think, oh, I'm going to go into surgery. They're going to fix my brand new knee. It's a traumatic surgery. So
Yeah.
there's those expectations. Sometimes there's also, slower progress for different reasons. Maybe they aren't doing as
Sure.
much as at home as they should be.
Yeah.
That can definitely affect it. Whether or not they're really being helpful to themselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something else that can kind of slow the progress down.
Pain isn't just about one joint, one injury, or one bad day. It's your body asking for attention, and the right guidance can change everything. Welcome to the Optimal Health Guide. I'm Michael, your host, and I am here with Josh Vance, the Optimal Health Guide. Josh, how's the week been going today?
It's going really well today.
Nice. That's good. Well, today we're going to unpack something that can make or break someone's recovery. What should you actually expect from the physical therapy plan? Because a lot of frustration comes from mismatched expectations. People want those results real quickly. They're not sure what progress should look like. And so they don't always understand the phase of recovery that they're in. So today we're going to walk through what a successful plan actually looks like from the first visit to long-term results. Get to that though. I would like to encourage you. We're real close at the time of this recording to concluding season number 2 and then beginning season number 3. And we really want season number 3 to be shaped by the types of questions or topics that you would love to have addressed. And so if you're interested, you can go to podcast.vancept.com and you could submit your questions there and help us shape season number 3. Well, with that said, let's jump right in. So Josh, I'd love to hear, we are encouraging people as a potential listener to take a first step of, do a consultation. What happens during the evaluation phase and why is it so important for you and for them as you partner together?
All right. So during an evaluation, what we're really trying to do is find out what the primary issue is or primary issues. Person comes in, they usually have a chief complaint and often pain. It may be something else, but whatever that is. So then we're going to evaluate it. We're going to ask a bunch of questions to try to determined what are these things that we need to look at. So questions in regards to pain, in regards to function, what we can do, what we can't do, what are we looking to get out of treatment, a bunch of questions that are going to kind of help us determine where we want to go during the evaluation itself as far as looking at different things. So then once we kind of get to that part of the evaluation, we're going to probably look at range of motion. We want to
Mhm.
look at strength. We want to look at mobility of joints. We want to look at kind of how the muscles feel, tenderness, or muscle length. Also, we may look at sensation, reflexes, depending on what kind of the issue is. We're going to feel around on some different muscles and structures to see if they're tender or not. They could be muscles, they
Mm,
could be tendons, they could be ligaments. We're going to watch you probably walk, depending on what the issue.
yeah.
Also, just generally observing how you move. If you're moving in such a way that looks like you're hurting, or, how your body mechanics are. Are you moving in a way
Mhm.
that's good for your back, or are you not paying any attention to how you're moving? So those are kind of some of the things that we're going to look at. Sometimes we'll also then, after we kind of do that evaluation, we will then determine, okay, maybe we are a good candidate to do a diagnostic musculoskeletal
Yeah.
ultrasound, or we need a nerve test and do an EMG. So then we'll talk about that and make those recommendations. But then once we've done the evaluation itself, usually on that first visit, we're going to kind of talk about goals and set up some goals for you, as well
Great.
as kind of discuss the plan of care, the various different things that we need to do to help you get back to kind of where you're at and where you're trying to go.
I love it. So you're really looking at a full circumspect way at what this person is bringing to the table, listening to their story, using your expertise to be able to identify areas, trying to figure out potential routes for somebody to go, but establishing clarity and an initial starting point there. I love it how you were talking about then is setting goals as well. So what are some early wins as somebody comes to meet with you for those first few weeks? And why do those first few wins really matter?
Well, I think the first wins matter because number one, it's encouraging.
Yeah.
Anytime we have some success, we want to build on that success. So it's encouraging for the patient and it's also encouraging for me.
I
It's
bet.
it's a little bit of a check that, okay, we're on the right pathway. They're making some improvement. Those early wins may be better motion. It may be less pain. It may be something, hey, I'm walking better, or I'm having fewer headaches.
Yeah.
I feel a little stronger. It's not so hard to get up out of bed or to stand up or to pick up something.
That's great. Yeah.
Sometimes it might even be, I'm having some less numbness and tingling and, the pains just decreased a little bit. There's a lot of different possibilities
Hmm.
on the wins, but probably pain reduction's a big one that a lot of people are really looking for. But certainly just, the improvement in general mobility and
Yeah.
function and, even somebody telling the individual, hey, you look like you're walking a little bit better today.
Yeah.
Those are things that are encouraging for a patient when they're dealing with some issues.
That's
Also,
great.
it helps
And I
build that confidence.
and I'd imagine too, that partnership that you're looking to develop, you're seeing those threads of partnership come about. People are understanding the value you're bringing to the table. You're learning how to communicate well with this particular person, learning what's most important to them and what optimal health might be looking like for them. So
Yeah.
that's great.
It also really helps get that buy-in because sometimes people
Yeah.
have a hard time like, "Well, I don't really know. I don't what therapy can do. My doctor says
Yeah.
go, but I've had therapy in the past," or, "I'm kinda skeptical." So once they see some success, then that really helps buy that confidence that,
Yeah.
there's things that we can do to help them.
Yeah. I think that's probably a picture of the type of person I would be becoming, a little skeptical, like, so I can see where those early wins would be really motivating for me to go, hey, this is great. So project forward then. What about like that typical 6 week stabilization window? What's happening in the body during that time?
Okay, so for the first 6 weeks, we're really trying to get pain control. It also depends on what we're looking at. If we've had a knee replacement, pain control is really important. But let me change that. If we've had surgery in general, that protective phase as a general, that protective phase, especially if it's a rotator cuff or something that's repaired a ligament structure,
Hmm.
we've got some healing now, so we can kind of move to that next phase. But during that first 6 weeks, there's a lot of healing going on.
Yeah.
There's muscle re-education happening, motor learning happening, decreasing pain, hopefully, muscle mobility improving. Your body's trying to heal.
Hmm.
Again, it depends on kind of why we're here, but there's a lot of things that can happen. And, that physiological strengthening is just beginning at that 6 week point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exercises are starting to do their thing in the sense of begin improving that strength. So it's just kind of that early kind of protective and early improvement kind of a phase in that first 6 weeks.
Yeah. 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 And so I think to track the thread of, or the arc that we're going through already, you've got early wins in that 2 week window, partnership developing. And then, depending upon what circumstance somebody is facing, it almost sounds like it might begin to plateau here, or maybe they're not seeing the same amount of progress that they did in the very beginning. Can you speak to that? Are we looking at like a gradual step by step, or are we getting to some plateaued areas?
No, not necessarily plateauing.
Okay.
Obviously, if a person comes in with like minus 20 to 90 degrees of bend, in other words, they're 20 degrees shy of making their knee flat, and they can only bend it to like maybe 80 or 90 degrees. Initially, they
Yeah,
have a lot more to gain than maybe down the road when their range is like 0 to 110, and we're
I
looking for
see.
120 degrees of bend.
Yeah,
So progress sometimes slowed down, but there should still be some consistent progress. At that 6 weeks point, usually we're reevaluating where are we at. Have we achieved
yeah,
all our goals? Are we doing well? Do we need to continue? Are we ready to go? So it
yeah.
really depends on kind of where we're at, but
Okay,
not necessarily plateauing.
great.
Still
That's
still
great and helpful
making
for me.
progress forwards in relationship to the goals, relationship to progressing different exercises, in relationship to progressing increased challenge of function. So it may be, we're working on back stabilization. So we're now beginning to incorporate a little bit more complicated movements, and we're working
Yeah.
on trying to learn how to move with more complex situations with more resistance and things like that.
Okay, great. Why might some people start to get discouraged at this time in the journey?
Well, if they haven't had as much pain relief as they would like, I think some of the people that might be more discouraged sometimes are chronic pain or post surgery. They got to understand, you go into surgery, you're looking for some time before you're going to feel well. Let's take, for instance, a rotator cuff for the first 6 weeks. Really, there's a lot of precaution. We don't want to do a whole lot because that tendon has to repair itself after they surgically fix it. So you do too much in that 6 weeks, that first 6 weeks, you're risking jeopardizing that repair and tearing it up. So then
Yeah.
you go back and have to have it done a second time. Well, that'd be terrible.
Hmm.
So sometimes people are a little frustrated, just that, they still have some pain. It's taking a while, but,
Yeah.
that's not an uncommon thing post
Yeah.
surgically. But what I try to tell people is, you're going to get there. This is a very normal process. We got to talk about physiology. We got to talk about healing. We got to talk about repair
Yeah.
and the whole progression that we have to do. So sometimes it's their expectations. They think, oh, I'm going to go into surgery. They're going to fix my knee. I'll have a great brand new knee. I'll just go. Well, it's a traumatic surgery too. So
Yeah.
there's those expectations. Sometimes there's also, slower progress for different reasons. Maybe they aren't doing as much as at home as they should be
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
That can definitely affect it. So, whether or not they're really being helpful to themselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
those are that's something else that can kinda slow the progress down.
Okay, that's super helpful to be able to hear some of those angles. What does transitioning into long-term maintenance look like? You're past the 6 week mark, and what are some of the things people need to overcome at that phase?
Okay, so once we're kinda getting ready to transition to more of a maintenance program, that's really probably where we're getting ready to get discharged. We're getting pretty close. We know all of our exercises, our pain's under control. We understand if there's an exacerbation, how to handle it in a situation that maybe they're post-surgical. They've got good range of motion, their strength's coming back. It may not be 100% yet, but they know their exercises. They're feeling good. They're confident in it. They've maintained the progress. They're really doing well, and they're basically kind of set up for, these are the things that you need to do. Here's your exercise program. If you have an issue, certainly give me a call. We're always
Yeah.
available. It's really trying to make sure if something comes up and you're having more pain or something like this is how you handle it. All kind of making sure that we've got all those possible situations kind of handled so they really know what to do as they're transitioning more to kind of the maintenance. I don't quite call it maintenance because really they're still
Okay.
trying to progress
Yeah.
and make continued strength gains and motion gains, perhaps. Probably
Yeah.
mostly strength gains and body mechanics and just improving their overall strength
Yeah.
function.
Well, to close the loop then on the whole journey, what does it look like to have somebody graduate? Or I'm not sure what you would use language there to like, hey, congratulations. Like we've reached the end of the journey and now, we might not be seeing each other in the same ways. Talk about that phase of the journey.
Yeah, once they graduate, I like to joke and ask them if they brought their cap and gown for graduation.
Yeah,
Most of them
that's
don't.
good.
No, but then we talk about, okay, you feel comfortable. Do you feel like you have the tools that you need to keep going? Obviously, we want an affirmative answer on that. And if there
For
isn't,
sure.
then we want to make sure that we handle that and clarify maybe whatever they don't understand. And then, I always tell a person, if you got an issue, don't hesitate to call me. We can always talk on the phone, or if you need to, you can come in for a little bit and we'll see what's going on and talk. But we're here to help you, even though you're doing great. Sometimes stuff happens, and maybe it's even something else that happens, and you need a little bit of guidance or whatever. So we're really looking to make sure they're comfortable and confident that they can continue with what they've learned and how to handle things.
That's great. Well, I can see why so many people, are so eager to be able to share about their story and their journey as they get ready to graduate. I'm even picturing some of the recent reviews that have come through and just people celebrating the journey that they've had, the help that they've gained along the way, and really almost like the optimism and the new look on life that they have. And so thanks for helping us to be able to understand that arc. So if you're listening to this and you can kind of understand that if you expect quick results, results, you oftentimes miss the real progress that comes from the complete journey. So if you're not sure what to expect and you felt frustrated in the past because of things not going or moving as quickly as you had hoped, the best next step is to get some clarity. So we can help you out and help you to understand the process and set some real expectations and build a plan that will actually work for you. So start with a free consultation. You can find that at advancept.com, because again, the goal isn't just to start treatment, but to help you to overcome and reach that optimal health that you've been dreaming of. Thanks again for listening in. Thanks, Josh, for helping answer all these questions.
Absolutely.